to the last episode of Miraculous Thinking for the year 2022. We are
Wow.
so glad that you are here with us today. And we're just so glad that you've been with us through this entire journey. It has been a real privilege and honor. And we've had so much fun being here with you. And today I'm here with the beautiful Crystal Ann Compton, my fabulous co host. And we are going to be wrapping up our series on human design by talking about projectors, reflectors, the centers, and we'll talk a little bit briefly about the channels and the gates, just generally, and potentially a couple of other little tidbits, right?
If we have time. Yeah, if we have time. Yeah. Before we do, let's just set people up for what's going to be happening next month, January of 2023. We are starting a new book. We're getting back into our books. And this one is going to be Path of Light by Robert Perry.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I have ordered this book twice.
No.
I like to hold a book personally.
Yes.
That's just best for my integration. So I ordered the first one, and I told you that I got A Course in Miracles workbook thing, right? I showed it to you. I kept it because I'm like, maybe this is great. But I still need the book because we're going to be reading it in January. So then I ordered it again from a different seller, and it never arrived. I've been tracking it since like December 8th. And
so what do you think this means, Crystal? Do you think we have to, is this the universe telling us we have to do a different book?
I don't think so. It means that I'm going to have to suck it up and read it on Kindle.
Which, no, not Kindle.
I know. It's like, I don't normally do that. I like to highlight things. I like to dog ear, but I'll do it. I'll do it on Kindle.
There are some trees that were hurt with me and how I feel about books. No, seriously, it's a problem. I want so much to love the earth and not buy
and you do
books. And I do, but this is an addiction right here. And I wish that I could like to read on Kindle, but I hate it.
I don't like it either, but I'm going to have to.
It doesn't feel like reading. It feels like I'm like on, the internet. Like,
right.
I don't know. It's a weird feeling.
I don't know. So I can't get the hard copy. I don't know if anybody else is going to be reading along with us or if you're just going to be listening to our summaries. But if you can get the book, good for you, because I couldn't get the book. I'm having a really hard time.
Let us know, though. That would be great. If those of you that are intending on reading it have not received it or are having a hard time getting a hold of it, let us know, because we can adapt if we find that, because there's no goal for us to read it if nobody else can read it along with us. Like, that's the goal.
I mean, I think some people like to listen to us summarize and then hash it out between ourselves, and maybe that's an easier way than having to read a book, is just listening to us yap on about it and get lost in the Kabbalion and so overwhelmed
cry
with your
a little bit
9 pages of notes.
Oh my God, that was I don't even want to think about that. That gives me anxiety.
We have to also determine what the book after that's going to be. Like, we're going to have a meeting and try to chart it out. We've had I think some people have made recommendations, and then you and I have talked about some things. So we'll get that together and start announcing that shortly. We don't know at this time.
We do not.
But it won't be the Kabbalion.
No.
It won't be that difficult. You told me to get the what is it called? The Second Coming of Christ by Yogananda.
Yes. Oh my God, the 2 volumes
you had suggested behind
my bird.
Yeah, you had suggested that for this podcast, and I'm like, this will never work.
Yeah, I figured that out after we tackled the Kabbalion, and then I was like, if that was this, then the Second Coming of Christ by Yogananda is definitely not the way to go.
I don't think so, but I mean, it is a sacred work.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful.
To be sure.
It's beautiful.
All right. So the Path of Light is what we're going to be going into in January. And you said this has 4 different parts. I wouldn't know. I don't have the book, but it's 4 different parts, right? So we're going to cover each part.
Yeah. It really gives you a completely macro view of the book, the general concepts, how it was created, what it's really about, what are the main ideas. It's just
Path of Light is talking about A Course in Miracles, just in case we're not clear. So that's the book that it is talking about.
Yes, it's talking about A Course in Miracles and breaking it down, because a lot of people have a lot of questions and confusion around it. It's kind of very mysterious. It's that one up here, right here, is the Course in Miracles complete annotated edition. So you can see why it would be daunting. It's thicker even than the Bible that I have. So,
okay. So the Path of Light addresses this book and helps us
Mm-hmm.
to understand it without having to go into the entire
I
content.
think it's a good way of knowing if it's even something for you, you
That's a good way
know?
to put it. Yeah.
So you can just get an idea of what the main philosophy is in a very clear cut way. And then you can decide if it's something that you want to take on or not.
I love that. So if
Yeah.
you're interested in the A Course in Miracles material, or if you've heard about it and you want to learn a little bit
Yeah.
more, this will be the month to follow along for sure. So we start
Definitely.
that next week and we'll take it in parts. First week is part one, second week, part
Hmm.
two, all the way through the 4 weeks. And then we'll move on to our next book.
You know what I want to do? I want to
Hmm.
do the surrender experiment. Have you done that book?
No, I'm writing it
What?
down. No, I've never even heard of that
Oh my
book.
God. And I think everybody will love it because it's a novel. So
Okay.
it's his story. Um, Mickey, I'm going to blank out on his name. Why am I blanking out on? Well, he calls himself Mickey, but his name is Michael Singer. Michael
Okay.
Singer. This guy, have you heard of him?
Yes, didn't he write another book? I think I have a book by him called like
He wrote another,
the
which one?
dance or the song or something like
I
this.
don't know.
I'm
Let me
gonna
see. I
have to
have a
look it
whole
up.
bunch of his books, but the surrender, I'm just trying to see if I have it here, if I have it somewhere else. Anyway, I don't know. The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. This book to me was unbelievable because what he did was at some point he was a normal guy, got really into meditation in the 60s and 70s, and just kind of decided to go live in the woods and meditate, like just meditate and meditate and meditate in Florida. And through a series of just following whatever life presented to him, whatever it was, if it was there, he just accepted it and went with it. He actually became like a multi-millionaire director of like this Fortune 500 company with like hundreds of employees, like computer company, like something really out there. But the guy stayed living in the woods in like it's not Opaloka, but it's like something like that, someplace in Florida in the
Hmm.
woods. And he has his own church in the woods there. His own, it's not really a church, but it's his meditation center. And he accepts all faiths. So he utilizes like everything. But
Okay.
the book of his story and how what does it look like when the world is offering you something, even though it doesn't look like what you want to do, and if you just follow it, surrender. And that's why it's called the surrender experiment. He said, I'm just
Hmm.
going to surrender to whatever opportunities, whatever comes my way. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to say yes over and
Wow.
over. And it's really his story. And then the hard part is that you want him to give you like a manual, right? Like afterwards, I wrote to them when I read the book. I said, okay, but do you have a course? Can I come do a retreat? Can I
Of
come
course
live
you
with you in the
did.
woods?
Yes.
And they're like, no. He says that it's really just about presence. Like you just have to practice being present to your life. Now he's done some courses. So if you see on his website, he has done some more, virtual trainings. I think enough people probably cuckoo like me are writing to him, please help, help. So, but yeah, I think we would love that. That might be something nice to start the new year with.
Okay, I've written
We
it
can have
down.
our own surrender experiment with our viewers.
Oh, okay. I love a challenge or an experiment.
Yeah. And
Okay.
see how it goes with them. And they can write to us and tell us, like, I surrender to this and this is what happened, and
Oh,
we
I
can
love
share
it.
our surrendering too.
Okay. I'm game. Let's make that our February book.
February book, it's my birthday month. So, yeah.
Okay. The Surrender Experiment, not
Yes.
experience. Okay.
Experiment by Michael Singer.
What day is your birthday?
February 7th.
7th. Ooh.
Aquarius.
Okay.
Don't
This
ask me the
is the
year because I'm not going
dawning
to
of
tell
the
you. I'm
age.
not going to tell you.
You're younger than me, so you got that going for you, which is nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, Path of Light, and then it sounds like the Surrender Experiment for February, but we
That
will
would be
make
awesome.
sure to prepare at least the next 4 to 6 books
Yes.
and get that put at least in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, by the way. It's called Miraculous
Yes.
Thinking. You can find us. This is where we post the books that we're going to be reading. And we also upload things like PDFs and meditations and things of that nature. So if you want to join our community, look for us, Miraculous Thinking. And you can also write to us. So if you're going to be surrendering, honey, and you want to tell us about it, you can write
Please.
us directly at miraculousthinking@gmail.com, or you can comment on our YouTube videos and stuff like that. We read
Yeah,
those.
that would be great
We
because,
read all of
this
those.
algorithm likes to see community. It
Yes.
rewards community.
Yes.
Well, that's good. That's one positive way to look at it, right?
Most definitely. All right. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into our conversation, our final conversation about
Hmm.
human design, in which, as you said, we're going to be talking about the special kids in
The
the
cool kids.
school, which
Yeah.
are the projectors and the reflectors. Now, as we've discussed, I'm a generator, darling. I'm
Yes,
always putting out that energy, but you are a projector. So why don't you tell
I
us a little
am.
bit about these two beautiful designs?
Absolutely. So projectors are here to guide. They're the guides. They're about 20% of the population, depending on what book you read, 2022. Um, and they're not here to work in the traditional way. And I lead with that because my whole life I thought I was a generator or a manifesting generator because I grew up with generators and manifesting generators. And, the world raises us to believe that we all are, but we're not. And when you can't meet that expectation of just do it, just go for it, start, initiate. Like projectors are not meant to initiate anything. We are here to respond to invitations to guide. And what happens with that is that that's very tied to your value, right? Because if you keep trying stuff and it never works for you because that's not your strategy is to wait for the invitation and you're trying to come. Like I took a lot of marketing classes when I started my business, and they were all like, you need to send an email, you need to send, create a funnel, create urgency. None of that worked for me. In fact, I think it pushed people away. I feel like it created an aura where people were actually repelled because I was going away from my strategy, what I'm supposed to be. When I realized that that just wasn't in alignment with me, and it was even before I found human design, I was like, this doesn't work for me. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, if somebody asks me what I do, I'll share it with them. If somebody watches a video and likes it and wants to work with me, then I'll do that. But I'm not gonna market in the normal way. And that's when everything changed because I began to wait for the invitation for people to reach out to me.
So you're a hypnotherapist,
Yes.
as we know, extraordinaire, if I may say.
Thank
So
you.
an invitation in the context of that would show up as what, somebody reaching out to schedule with you, somebody reaching out to make an inquiry, but you
Yes.
yourself are not going out to
Like I'm not
knock
going to
on doors.
go and post flyers at the supermarket, like just all over the place, or ask my friends, or, like the pressure tactics of like sending mass emails and creating none of that. Like
So
for
they
me,
have to
it's
find you.
they have to find me, and they will find me if I am in my own value. You see, there's two things with a projector. A projector is what we call a non-energy type, just like reflectors and manifestors, which we studied the first time on our first session. And the non-energy types do not have sustainable energy. They don't have it. They have to borrow it from the people around them. So what happens is when you are in an environment when you don't have that energy and you push anyway, you deplete yourself. So the invitations won't come when you don't have the energy to respond to the invitation. So if you want to be like a generator and you want to send the emails, do this, make a video, make a podcast, have a blog, have a vlog, all these things that you're doing, you're going to burn yourself out so much that your energy is going to contract and it's not going to work, because even if people wanted to work with you, you would be too burnt out to work with them or to be good at what you do because you're working from a place of depletion. So, number one, you have to have the energy, which means you have to have cycles of working and resting, a
Hmm.
sustainable way of doing your life. If not, you're not going to be able to cope. And the second thing is that you need to know your value so that you're patient while you wait for the invitation,
Hmm.
because projectors want to be seen. They know what other people need. They know it. They see it. That's how they're built. Their aura, that's why they're called projectors, is like this. It just goes straight into another person. They can see exactly, especially generators and manifesting generators, they can see what they need. More, I mean, it would be the perfect guide. But if the person doesn't let you in, it's almost like you're invisible. You get desperate to be seen. So you will accept any invitation, even when it's the wrong invitation. And that's why for projectors, it's very important to know their value, to trust in source that it is coming, even if it looks slow, and to just get ready and prepare themselves while they wait. And they have to create careers that give them some passive income because they cannot work, you know, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then go be soccer mom and cookie mom and every mom. And when I became a mom, I mean, I was so exhausted because I was working and I had these two kids, and I was like, is something wrong with me? And I wanted to be that wonderful mom. So I'm like, I'll be the mom from the classroom and the this, but I was exhausted. I
Hmm.
was completely exhausted.
So we talked, I think, last time about the not self theme, which is
Mm-hmm.
the emotion or the energy you're running when you're not in alignment with your true self. So for a
Yes.
projector, what is their not self theme?
Bitterness.
Bitterness.
Yeah,
Do you
because
get do
when
you get bitter over there sometimes?
I used to. I don't get bitter anymore because now I understand where the bitterness was coming from. And I think the bitterness was just this idea that you had so much to offer and it seemed like nobody noticed. It's like you weren't even there. And what you had to give was not enough, and what they wanted you couldn't give. So your value was just not, it wasn't, you weren't worthy. It wasn't right. You weren't right. And I described it to my mom the other day. I said, my whole life, I felt literally like a perfect, beautiful circle that everybody was trying to shove into a cube or a square or a rectangle or something that's not me. And I tried every which way that I could to become that. But you can't fake being a square when you're a circle, you know?
Right. Yes.
So it's hard not to be kind of accepted, and not only accepted, but validated for the
Hmm.
parts that make you special, that you're always having to suppress what makes you special to people please. And eventually you just get to a moment where you can't do it anymore. You just can't.
So in relationships, I'm wondering how invitation works, especially like love relationships. I mean, do you have to be
That's a big,
invited? Do you have to be
uh-huh.
pursued? I mean, you can't be the one to go out there chasing. How does that work?
You can do the chasing, but I wouldn't recommend it. Mm-mm. How a projector initiates a relationship will set the tone for the entire relationship.
Okay.
So, for projectors, it's extremely important to wait for the invitation, especially in the areas of love, where they live. So, places to invite them, like a job opportunity comes up or something happens, and their career. So, what you're meant to do, you really have to allow it to present itself to you. And I know
Okay.
that sounds hard because you're
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? But you just got to work. I mean, I know you got to work and make money, but you really have to try to pay attention to what is being offered to you. What opportunities are coming, and really try to respond to the don't try to be like, "Oh no, I want to open, a spa." And there's nothing in the world that's presenting itself to you for that, because you're going to be in an uphill battle.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
with a projector, though, given their composition, their energetic and spiritual composition, are they more likely to be drawing in multiple invitations? And really, it's about the facility to notice?
It is. It's about connecting, because you can have authorities like we discussed last week. If you have a splenic authority or emotional authority, so it's paying attention to those gut, that intuitive hit, however it comes to you, and following it. And again, I think that's why that surrender book is going to be so wonderful, because that's what this is about. It's about feeling the intuition and acting on it with faith that it is right for you. And for that, you have to really get to know yourself. Being a projector is hard. It takes a lot of self mastery, a lot of patience, and a lot of trust if you're going to do your job right. And a recognition that you're not everybody's Kool Aid. Like there's going to be your people that you were designed to guide, but you're not for everybody. And they may just that the people that you're not for, they are not going to like you no matter what you do. So you have to be okay with that and not keep trying to insist to be a guide to someone that doesn't want you, which can happen.
So, myself as a generator, I don't have to wait to be invited. I can go out and kind of, do I create the opportunities? Do I create, well, or does the manifestor do it? I don't know. But versus a projector,
Mm-hmm.
where you may have more of these opportunities flowing to you, whereas maybe is a generator kind of more externally creating those for themselves?
So a generator just has to respond, whereas
Right.
a projector has to wait for an actual invitation. So
So, but
y-
am I responding to my inner
you're always responding
desire?
to the external offerings,
Okay,
what's
external
happening. So
offerings.
the answer of the universe to your internal desire will be something to respond to on the outside,
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
always.
All right.
Yeah. The manifestors are the only ones that can initiate.
Okay.
They're the only ones that should initiate with like nothing outside saying, hey, come do this. So you guys have a lot. I mean, we're constantly being offered things to respond to. So you guys have not a very long time to wait. You just check in
Mhm.
with your gut and like, okay, yes, no. For us, it's like, it's not only to respond, it's to actually be invited.
Right, that's the difference.
Yeah. And that's a lot. It's a lot of waiting.
Yeah. And
Is
also
the invitation going to come in the mail? You know what I mean?
also trusting yourself too, right? And
Yes,
to choose the right invitation, you would have to
totally.
kind of have that sense of understanding yourself to say yes.
Because if not desperation, listen, just think about it in practical terms. If you want to go to a party and you never get invited to a party, and eventually you get invited to like the worst party in the world, and you know it's going to be, but it's the only one you've been invited to, you're going to say yes a lot of the time until you learn that it's better to just skip bad parties, even
Mhm.
if you have to stay home, you know?
Yes. Okay. So, should we move on to reflectors?
Yes.
And can you tell us again the percentage of people in the world that are projectors versus reflectors once again?
Projectors are about 20 to 22% of the population. Reflectors are only 1%.
So they really are special.
They are the most special. They are unicorns. They are the unicorns of the humans, of the auric types. So, something I just want to say with projectors that I have found to be the most important thing is to really respect your need for cycles of work and rest. This is the key for everything for them. It's the key to receiving invitations because if they're rested, they will receive the invitation. It's the key to give answering correctly to the right invitations because you have the clarity to do so. And it's the key to not burn yourself out and then get sick because they can get adrenal fatigue and a million things, projectors, because they're trying to do things that they're not supposed to. So that's just something
Reflectors. Reflectors.
both projectors
Oh,
and
project. Oh,
reflectors,
okay.
both.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. The reflectors are lunar beings. So unlike projectors and and all the other types, reflectors have no colored in or defined centers. None. They may have some defined gates, but they don't have defined centers. They have no channels that are defined. So this is a completely open person. And a reflector is like a chameleon because being so open, as you can imagine, if you're so open, it means you're just constantly, people are like people's energy is just moving through you. And you're not meant to hold on to any of it. It's almost like, okay, vanilla, interesting, chocolate, okay, nice. You just let it move through you and you don't attach. And they're here to reflect back to us like a mirror what's going on out here. Because if somebody completely absorbs and then reflects back to you what they absorbed, what are you looking at? You're looking at yourself, you're looking at your society. So when a reflector is showing up in a sort of dysfunctional state, it's usually a very good indicator that the environment that they're in is dysfunctional as well in some way. So they're here to tell us, they're here to show us how we're doing.
So these sound like the ultimate empaths and
They
highly
are.
sensitive people.
They are, because imagine, but the interesting thing about them is that it's almost easier for them than it is for projectors, because projectors do have some definition, and so do manifestors, and obviously so do generators. But they're built to be Teflon. So it's like they do feel everything, but they're not meant to actually feel it like it's theirs.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
they're just here to reflect it back out. So it's like it comes in, this is what's going on, here you go, and so but they can confuse it as their own if they
Right.
attach, and that's
Right.
when it can become a problem. So yeah.
Okay. So the key for a reflector is understanding, because we teach empaths to always ask, is this mine? Does this
Yeah.
belong to me, or does this belong to someone else?
Hmm.
For a reflector, is it never theirs ever?
That's very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have conditioning, right? So no matter who we are, empty or defined, we have conditioning, which we take on as ours, even though it never was, right? So all of us are conditioned beings, and those conditionings are our own. But a reflector's highest expression is just someone that is in a healthy environment where they can truly reflect sort of the highest expression of humanity. And you can see it because they're like beacons. They can actually show you what's there. They're not meant to really hold on to any of it. They're meant to be fluid. They're meant to, those people, they can make you crazy because today they're like, go Red Sox. And tomorrow they're like, no, go Yankees. It's like for them. And they're not liars. They're not trying to be fake. They're not trying to be, that's really how it is for them.
Hmm,
There's no attachment. I mean, I don't want to like pigeonhole anybody, but there in their design there isn't. We can all have attachments
sure.
in our mind and our thoughts, but the design is meant to be super fluid, like light.
And so, what is their not self theme? Their energy,
Disappointment.
disappointment. Okay. So, when they're not in alignment, or if they're not, yeah, not in alignment with their
Hmm.
design, is that how you would say that? That's
Yeah.
when
If they're
they're,
not expressing the highest version of their design, if they're in a dysfunctional environment, or they have a lot of conditioning or trauma that they've
hmm,
experienced, then they're going to have a lot of disappointment. They're going to feel disappointed because probably they can sense what is possible,
yeah.
what could be, and yet they see that it's not there, and they have a big problem with relationships because they can become extremely attached to
Hmm.
people and stay way longer than they need to stay because they're like doppelgangers, right? It's like, that thing that they become the group that
Hmm.
they're in. So because they do that, they don't actually get the cue that it's time to leave. So
Oh,
it can happen in a relationship, it can happen in a social circle or a company, that you stay long after you should have left.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not easy, I don't think.
Yeah, I would
I
imagine
don't
not.
think, it doesn't sound easy. No,
I don't, well, we know we have a reflector friend in
we
common,
do.
and she really does present in the world like a nature elemental, like a little
Yes.
fairy unicorn,
Yeah,
just like, but
absolutely.
she has gone on quite a journey um, to discover for herself how to master the state of that, and to how not to
Hmm.
get attached to something, and how to um, use her empathy as
Hmm.
kind of a superpower, like to help her
Yes.
to understand the world a little bit more. But like, I would imagine that's big work for a
And
reflector.
they actually, like you just said, I'm so glad you brought that up. They really heal in nature
Hmm.
because there is no boundaries with them. They can really let it in. So
Yeah.
all those dimensions and energies just kind of go, straight through, and they can feel them. That's why I think that they are extremely good with animals, with nature. I mean, when they're the happiest is when they're in nature.
That makes
Yeah.
sense too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anything else about either the projector or the reflector before moving on to centers?
I think that that's a good,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good amount of information. And by the way, for those of you who have not yet pulled your human design chart, it's
Yes.
perfectly free. All you have to do is go to eleniquemarie.com, scroll
Hmm.
down on the home page about halfway, and there's a little form generator. Just put in your information, and bada bing, bada boom, you'll get your chart. It is free. And then you'll know whether you are a manifester, a generator, a projector, or a reflector. Link in the description.
Yes.
Okay, moving on now to Centers. I'm pulling out my little chart again. What is a center?
Mhm.
I mean, as broadly as we can describe
If
it, what
you're
is that?
familiar with the chakra system,
Yeah.
then it's built around the concept of the chakras, except for instead of 7, there's 9, because 2 of the centers split recently in the not far away past. So
Explain. What do you mean?
yes, because the idea is that we as human beings are constantly evolving. We're not staying the same. Our centers are not staying the same. Our energy is not staying the same. We're upgrading, right? And
Hmm.
so in human design, there was an upgrade, and instead of 7 centers, 2 of those centers broke off and have now 2 pieces to it. So the heart,
Hmm.
which is the G center, has next to it the will, which is called the heart. That's 2, that used to be 1.
Okay.
And then you have the spleen and the solar plexus, which is also now it's 2, and each one does something different, but it is tied a lot to the Hindu chakra system. So you have the head center, which corresponds to the crown chakra, which is really all about inspiration and receiving inspiration. You have the ajna, which is in it's still called the ajna in both, third eye, and that's really about figuring things out and being certain and knowing what you know, and having that intuition in a certain way. You have the throat. The throat is about expression and really how to bring things into manifestation, because in human design, again, like in so many things that we've studied this year, the power of vibration, the power of words is super important as a means of creating. You have the G center, which is what we would normally think of as the heart center. That's called the G, or identity center. And so there lives your sense of lovability, your sense of who you are, like at the deepest level. Like, who am I? Identity. That's in the G. You have the spleen, and the spleen is really has a couple things. It lets you know about right timing, so it gives you those hints about when is it the right time to act. It also deals with fears, so the fear gates are all located in the spleen. And health, so your health is also in the spleen. The emotional solar plexus is really about your emotions, right? It's the emotions center, so feelings, and it works in a wave. So if you have a definition in the emotional solar plexus, or if your authority is emotional authority, you really have to wait to see how you feel about something over time. Just don't make decisions just to make decisions, like on the spot. Um, then you have the heart, which is we call the will, which is right next to the G center, a little bit
Hmm.
down from it. That one's really about willpower, the resources to do what it is that you want to do, but it's also very much tied to proving your worth. So, am I worthy? Am I valuable? And then you have the sacral, and the sacral is the biggest, most powerful motor in human design. That's why you're a generator. And that's
Hmm.
what makes a manifesting generator and a generator. They're the only ones that have a defined sacral.
Okay.
And the sacral is raw power, right? It's just that raw energy. And then you have the root chakra, which is it works sort of like explosive, like a pop of energy, like, but it's not sustainable, not like the sacral. The sacral is sustainable. And when you have a root or an open root, there can also be this feeling that you have to do something. It's just this constant pressure to go do something. Like having an open head is a constant pressure to figure something out. So
Let's
those are
talk
kind of the
about
major
let's talk about the state of openness or definedness, because it's not
yes,
closed. It's openness and
defined
defined.
and undefined.
So when you're looking at your chart and you're looking at these geometrical shapes, some of them have colors in them and
Hmm.
some of them are white. And so the white
Yes.
ones are open, the ones with colors are defined. Now, is the quality of color just associated with the chakra, or does the
You
color have
know,
other meaning besides just
the
that?
color is not really significant.
Okay.
What's important is that defined is colored in, undefined is not colored in, but with a gate that is active. So you can have an empty center, but a gate that is filled in.
Mm-hmm.
And completely open is when you have nothing in a center, no gates, no color.
So when I'm looking at my chart, does a gate look like a circle with a
A
number in it?
circle,
Circle with a
yes.
number in it?
A circle with a number.
Okay, so my crown chakra or my head
Mm-hmm.
center is open, but there's just a series of numbers at the bottom of it. So
Yes.
it's there's no gate. What does the series of number represent?
Those are three gates, 63,
Oh,
61, 64.
yeah.
There's three gates there.
Mm-hmm.
And are any of them defined? Are any
No,
of them colored in? Okay,
no.
so you're just completely open in the head.
Okay.
So to begin with that, so defined centers mean that that is, so when you have a center defined, it's when you have a gate that's
Mm-hmm.
active in that center, and the channel that leads from that gate to another gate is also filled in. So the definition of centers depends on channels, on two
Okay.
gates being active in order to activate a channel, which then activates those gates as defined. The centers, I'm sorry. So you
Okay.
see how you have, like, say for example, let's say that your head, you have gate 61.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that was active, and let's say gate 24 was active, was
Okay.
filled in, both of them. Then
Mm-hmm.
you'd have a channel that would define your crown, and it would define your ajna. That's how we activate a
Okay.
center. So what does that really mean? It means that that's a consistent energy that you are here to bring into the world. That doesn't mean you're not affected by other people. And I hate it when people say that, no, well, then those people are not. Yeah, you are. Everybody's affected. We're all affected. But this is a constant energy that you
Okay.
have. And having that constant energy has positives and it has negatives, right? Because, for example, an example like, let's take a defined ajna, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is about knowing, right? It's about having an opinion and figuring things out. Great. That means you know your own mind, you have your own opinions. But it can also make you unwilling to see the value of other people's opinions. And
Mm-hmm.
that could become part of your journey in life, to really recognize that even though you have very strong opinions about things, other people's opinions are also equally valuable. So you see how everything has a positive and a negative
Yes.
expression.
So within the channels themselves, which are the
Mm-hmm.
lines that connect
Mm-hmm.
each of these geometrical patterns, which are
Yes,
the centers, there are
correct.
like dashes of color. There's like a little red line.
Yes.
There's red with black diagonal stripes. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't, there's like one of my channels is red here, black there, and it connects the two
Yes.
things. So what are all these colors in the channels, generally speaking?
So so how you define gates is if there
Mm-hmm.
was a planet in that gate at the time of your birth. So if you look at those two rows of numbers that are on the side of your human design, you have your conscious numbers are in black, your
Mm-hmm.
unconscious numbers are in red.
Right.
You'll see the number at the beginning is the gate, and the number after the decimal is the line. Well, we are not going to get into line because that's even,
Right.
crazier. But the gate. So if you observe, let's say if you have gate 13
Mm-hmm.
in your conscious sun, then you will see that you have that gate colored in activated, highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's a conscious, it's in your conscious sun, the bit that comes off of it will be black. If
Okay.
it doesn't,
I
and
see.
if it, you see what I mean? And
Yes.
if it's an unconscious gate, so
Mm-hmm.
let's say gate 17, then you'll have it highlighted and you'll see a red line coming off of it.
Okay.
Now, when you will see black and red on top of each other is when you have that gate both in your conscious and your unconscious
Okay.
in some planet. We call it candy cane, like when they mix and match.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
they could be hanging, and a hanging gate is when one gate is activated, but the one on the other side of the channel is not. So it's just hanging there. And the
Okay.
importance of hanging gates is that we're attracted to the people that have the gate that completes our channel.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
Interesting.
because it completes you, it completes your circuit, right? And we didn't get into this, but you have single definition, split definition, triple split, and it's, which is means that how many of your colored in circles actually connect, like, continuously.
Mm-hmm.
So the more split your definition is, the more that your centers are sort of, oh, these two connect, but they don't connect to anything else, and these two connect, but they don't connect to anything else. The more you seek other people that can complete your what you're missing.
Oh, okay.
So for example, Oprah Winfrey is triple split definition. And as you can see, her whole career has been
Mhm.
built around people, interacting with people, interviewing people, because they complete whatever was missing for her. When that other person sits across from her on that interview couch, she's on. She's Oprah. Who's Oprah when there's nobody to interview? I don't know.
Mhm.
But when she's there with that person or that person she's holding space for in relation, suddenly it's just like her whole magnificence just becomes like expressed, which is why it's so beautiful because it's really about community for a
Mhm.
lot of people. For some people, it isn't. Like people that don't have that, they don't need it. They don't
Yeah.
need it as much. Let's say like that.
What's your definition? Mine is split.
I am single split. Yeah. So
Okay, so is there anything that's not split?
uh
Any kind of a definition that's not split?
there's
Like a
single
whole?
definition. I is it whole, what? I don't think there is. I'm actually no, you said that to me. Why hasn't that ever occurred to me before? I think so. I think it's single because unless you're well, yes. Because what if you're a reflector?
Yeah.
You don't have any
Right.
because you don't have any centers and you don't have any channels. So yeah.
So no definition.
So no definition. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. I can't believe I never thought about that. It took you. It took you to make me think about that. But yes, you're right. Now that you say it,
Okay.
it's true.
Okay, so I can see how this goes can go on and on and on, and we can get maybe caught in the specificity of it all.
Yes.
But generally, openness is constantly receiving and moving through and defined.
Openness,
Mhm.
yes. Openness is you're absorbing. Not only are you absorbing, but where you're open, you're absorbing and amplifying.
Okay.
So if mom is sad, you're depressed. Like it's like
Mhm.
you're feeling it and then it's like becoming bigger in you. So, but then theoretically, when mom's not around, it should just leave, like just like the wind, like with her.
Right.
She should take her energy, but we don't because we start to tell ourselves a story about that energy that was never ours to begin with. And now we're owning this energy and playing out a story that doesn't belong to us.
You can
So
really
open,
see how empowering it is to understand
right?
this about yourself so that you can know that it's not yours and just to let it move. Vanilla, chocolate. Isn't it great?
Exactly.
Moving on.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
didn't know this about yourself, you would think you own all of this and it's your stuff.
I mean, I have an open emotional solar plexus, so the feeling of people's energies, stories, emotions, and what that can do when I was younger was I was really afraid of confrontation because I could feel if somebody was going to be mad at me. I could feel if somebody was going to be disappointed in me. So you just kind of tippy toe around people and try to avoid setting anybody off, and it's exhausting,
Mhm.
and that feeling, it's not really even what they're feeling because you're feeling what they're feeling on steroids. So then you get like really disappointed in people or angry because you think that they feel a certain way about you, but actually they don't even feel that way. You feel that way because you're picking up what they're feeling, which might be annoyance, and you may be blowing it up into something completely bigger.
Mm.
And then the person's like, "What are you talking about?" And you're like, "Well, because you said that I wasn't good enough." And I'm like, "When did I ever say that?" You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's a mess.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I have to ask you, so in the work that you do, I know you're a hypnotherapist, but I know you're also a human design practitioner. Do you sit down with people with their charts and go over all of these? Because there's so many other things to get into. Is
Wow,
this what you do,
yes.
or how does this
Yeah,
show up
like
in your practice?
this has been amazing. And now I won't even work with anybody. I've been doing sort of I was doing, I was a hypnotherapist and that's all I did, for a very long time. I did crystal healing and Reiki, a lot of that prior to that. And it's so funny you asked me this because last night I had this epiphany that I was supposed to put all of it together, like in one protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it was supposed to have the energy healing to lead people into a deep state of trance through hypnosis, to then open up to sort of the angels and the guides and the masters and the teachers and invite them in for that deeper healing that happens after you work on the mental level, but really to work on the spiritual level. But I don't work with anybody anymore without a human design chart. I just
Because it's
don't, no
so
matter.
much information about everything.
When you sit down, I would say 9 times out of 10, whenever I've sat with somebody and given them their human design chart, the relief and the sort of sense that somebody gets you,
Mhm.
and now you understand yourself, even the things that you used to criticize yourself for and find yourself lacking for, you suddenly get them. I don't think there's a bigger freedom than for somebody to tell you it's okay. That's how you're designed, you know?
Um, I have another podcast called Life Magnetics, which I know you know, but I interview a lot of different people from like all sorts of walks of life, well, spiritual people. But I've taken to asking them if they know their human design because it actually helps
Wow.
me to understand how they're perceiving questions and also how to formulate certain questions to kind
Yes.
of get them to open up and talk about different things. So it's just even in that context, it's super helpful
I
just to
think
talk to
companies
somebody.
companies should do that. I think this
Mm-hmm.
should be the personality assessment tool. They forget
Mm-hmm.
Myers-Briggs. Like just give them this thing and you're gonna know. Generator. Like I had a friend that hired a personal assistant to help her. Like she finally took on a PA because and she was still having to do half the work because the girl just couldn't keep up. And then I was like, "Did you do her human design?" And she was a projector.
Right.
I'm like, no,
You need a
I don't
generator.
think that you need a generator or a manifesting
Mm-hmm.
generator to be your PA. You cannot ask a projector. And the person probably feels terrible. They want to do everything for you. They just can't keep up. And my friend's a manifesting generator. So you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like having a nuclear power plant. The girl was probably just like
Shorting out,
overwhelmed.
totally
Yeah, she was
overwhelmed.
probably shorting out. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, one final question. I mean, if it's not too complicated, because I brought up
Okay.
at the before when we were off recording the incarnation cross,
Yes.
and you explained a little bit of this to me because this shows up in your chart. Can you tell
Hmm.
us what an incarnation cross is and why this is important?
The incarnation cross is made up of the conscious sun. So
Yeah.
what gate is in the conscious sun, what gate is in the conscious earth, unconscious sun and unconscious earth. And you put those things together and those four gates are pretty much 70% of who you are. If you don't understand anything else about any of the other gates, forget it. Just look at those four gates because those four gates are really your life purpose, what you're here to do, what you're here to offer, what you're here to offer, what you're here to learn, and what you're here to give. All of that is in that cross. And we have three types of crosses. You have the right angle crosses, the left angle crosses, and sort of one that's like I call it neutral because it's neither right nor left. And what the right angle crosses are, which are the profiles that are in the lower numbers, so like 1 3 1 4, like that, those ones that are called right angle crosses are really interpersonal uh, life purposes, meaning these people are here to really go through their life and learn through their own experience, through their own process. It's very internal. So sometimes people can judge them and be like, "You're so much about you." And like, but yes, that's what they're supposed to do. Don't judge it. Then you have the left angle crosses. Those are called, in a way, karmic crosses because they're transpersonal, meaning if you have a left angle cross, you're really meant to serve in some way. Your purpose really has to do with helping others, facilitating for others. Your mere presence is designed. There's not one person you run into in your entire life when you have a left angle cross that wasn't sent to you. So you have to be very careful, either for you to receive something from them or them to receive something from you, even the people that you have to forgive. So this is very important. That's why it's so important to do that forgiveness work, even with the people that we can't stand or have hurt us deeply. Because if you have a left angle cross, you really have to check it off the list, so you don't have to deal with it again later. And then the 4 1 is the only one that's neither or. That one really is one that their life is very much,
When you say
there's not a
four
lot.
one, when you say 4-1, you mean the neutral cross, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, exactly. They're the only ones that fall under that, and that cross is a it's a it, it's kind of predetermined. Let me put it like that. It's kind of like a lot of what they're coming here to do. There's not a lot of
It's
how am
already
I
been
gonna.
written, it's been predestined,
Yeah, there's a
karmic,
lot.
lots of
It's
karmic.
yes.
Okay.
It's not even karmic. It's just it's not karmic in the same way as the left angle crosses because the left angle crosses have to serve, they have to interact. But these people, whatever that path is that they came to do, and it may not be service, is defined, and they have been specifically built for that purpose.
Mm.
So they're here with a purpose. That purpose is not going to change no matter what. And they're designed to be able to do it. So it's a very nice feeling if that's you, to the extent that you really just have to accept whatever it is and just embody it, just go for it, because there's no point in fighting it because it's not going to change. It's not going to change at all.
So
Some people get upset by that, but
does every design have the same incarnation cross? Meaning, like, do generators always have a right
no.
angle cross? So that can
Yes, because
be
it all
fluid.
depends on your profiles. So the
Okay, which we talked about.
designs,
Yes.
yeah, the profiles, meaning what is in your conscious sun and
Mm-hmm.
unconscious sun, and for the cross, what is in your conscious earth and your unconscious earth, those things. And what's beautiful about this is every planet does something different. And if we want, we can do this maybe next time. We can talk about a little bit about the planets, if we ever want to circle back around and do a revisitation of human design.
Mm-hmm.
But each planet gives you something of your purpose. Like, for example, Saturn, we call it the great teacher, right? So what gate you have in Saturn is very significant because it's what you're here to learn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
everything has a reason. Everything has a, so for example, the sun is your purpose. The sun is really your purpose. And so you have where's your karma at, and where's your gift, and each planet represents a different aspect of your beingness. So imagine you've got your just your design. You've got your incarnation cross. On top of that, you have all the gates that we haven't even talked about, 64 gates, 36 potential channels that could be activated. The different planets and their influence, depending on what gate is in which planet at what time. Your general conditioning as a human being in the world, your epigenetic conditioning that you get,
Mm-hmm.
and your ancestral conditioning that's coming in through like traumas, like we talked about, the survivors, the grandchildren survivors of Auschwitz, how they had elevated anxiety, like disproportionately elevated anxiety, but they had never been there. So just that trauma was so deep that it just went straight into the body and got passed on as a warning. So all of this makes up each and every one of us like a little grain of sand. This just unique, beautiful, complex, endless little ray of sand, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it. You can study human design for the rest of your life. You can look at your chart for the rest of your life. You'll never get to the end of it. And I, for one, like that. So
You're always on a quest, a knowledge quest.
true.
Um, but one final question, I guess, because I know that there is the traditional or early human design, but
Mhm.
you gravitate toward quantum human
Yes.
design. Can you tell us what the difference between those two systems are?
Okay, there's two distinctions. Traditional human design was channeled by Ra Uru, and it focuses a lot on the not self theme. So, what we discussed as bitterness, anger, all of that, because he said that he wrote it really for the unawakened, for the souls that are in the process of awakening, but they're still unawakened. And he wanted to like shock people into, hey, if you're bitter, you better wake up because you're not living your best life, right? So, it was kind of that. And he had intended to write a follow up where he used language for those that are already awakened, but he passed away. So Karen Curry Parker, who's my mentor, she was a student of his, and she really understood language and the power of language. And so as you see in traditional human design, you'll see a lot of words that maybe aren't so positive, like martyr,
Mm-hmm.
or heretic. Like these are very kind of, it's like opportunist for the line 4. So they're not really. And so when we talk to someone and we describe them to themselves with this negative languaging, then you can take on this idea that, oh, I guess I'm just a martyr. I guess everything's just going to go wrong for me. And Karen said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to give people enlightened language to really talk about the fact that the story that we tell about who we are creates our reality, as we well know. And so she rewrote a lot of those terms
Mm.
and she calls them different things. So it's just beautiful because her whole message is really about that. And I think the other thing that's unique about her is that she created a system called quantum alignment system, which I practice. That's part of what I do. And it combines energy psychology, so tapping
Mhm.
with all the gates. And she identified that in every chakra, we have sort of a gift, a resiliency that we can embody. And if we have that resiliency key active, we're more stable. But if we don't, then we're always going to be limping through life. So like if you have low self-esteem, how can you be truly wealthy? You're always going to give yourself away because yourself, even though your ideas may be incredible, if you just have that low self-esteem, you're always going to take less than what you're really worth. And so in order to really express the maximum expression of yourself, you've got to heal all those keys. And that's what she created along with this, which I think is beautiful and powerful.
And
So
it
that's
incorporates tapping.
tapping. Yes,
Okay.
EFT tapping.
Mm-hmm.
um, and the human design chart. So we look at the chart, we look at where the person is open, because usually where you're open is where you're more prone to be conditioned, and we need to heal a lot of times that conditioning. And then usually you just like if somebody comes in and says, I don't really know what I'm here to do. Immediately you're like, okay, maybe you don't have an identity center defined, right? Because you're looking for meaning. Who am I? Or maybe your will is undefined and you just are like floating around trying to figure out, am I worthy? Right. So immediately, just with this one question, you're like, okay, let's tap on that.
Mm-hmm.
When's the first time you ever felt like that? When's the first time you ever experienced that? Let's go back to that moment in childhood. And so you, like a little onion, you go layer by layer, healing it until you bring a person back to a state of resilience where they truly can heal themselves. Because once you learn tapping, you can do it on your own. That's why I love it. I love to give it as a tool to people that I work with. And I'm like, when I'm not with you and you're with that annoying boss, even though I want to kill this guy, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. It's powerful. It's very powerful.
Maybe we should do an episode just on tapping
I
in the
would love that.
future. Yeah, what a like a
A mini
healing
course. Yeah.
modality. Yeah, people that really need to know it. So I mean, if I'm watching this, I want to find out how to work with you. I want to invite you to
Yay,
work with
please,
me.
somebody.
So, why don't we just let people know also how they can contact you and check you out and the work that you do? How would they do that, Elenique?
The best way to do it is just to go to eleniquemarie.com. And there you'll see services, a little bit about me, how I work. I'm busy adding my new inspiration, the one that's going to be Reiki with tapping, with human design, like all of it. I just went today and
Oh my
changed my
God.
entire office. I changed the whole thing. I was like, I need to put a massage bed. I need to
Mm-hmm.
bring my crystals, but
Oh
it's
my
just really,
gosh.
really, really powerful. And I'm excited about it. So
And it's
I'll
not
let
just
you know.
in person though, like to get on
No,
you
because
could do this
Reiki,
right
Reiki is,
remote. You can do it
Reiki is
remotely.
Reiki. Yeah.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people with the Reiki remotely, and we set a time. I like to do it on Zoom because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I like them to just have my presence with them in a way that they can understand. And they lie down and then I know, and I talk through the whole thing. I tone through it, I sing through it, I chant through it. So you know how I am.
Amazing. Wow. I mean, wow. That sounds like a
Well,
miraculous.
we have to do it, Krista.
Yeah,
We have to do our own.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I actually have a workshop that I am in the planning stages of that deals with epigenetics and ancestral healing
Wow.
and cord cutting. And I want to take people through understanding like what this is and how it actually shows up in your life, and then through some rituals to clear it and align things.
Awesome.
I'm creating a meditation with my friend in Sweden. It's a channeled meditation with like subliminals and affirmations and activating
Wow.
words. But I'm wondering, as we're talking, like, I wonder how human design could show up in this workshop, how we could get engaged
Wow.
with people's types or designs, and how that might relate to the way they hold trauma or reflect trauma, or, you know what I'm
But
saying?
we
So,
can look at that with human design.
yeah,
It's there. It's just, I didn't even touch that because this thing, like I told you, it's a wormhole.
yeah.
Like there's charts for relationships, there's charts for family dynamics. There's ways of evaluating and really
Mm-hmm.
understanding, like, and even in the life purpose, in that right angle cross, left angle cross, we can see a lot. Like, does it have to do with family? Does it have to do with healing family? So we could maybe run charts for them
Mm-hmm.
and kind of do that before, and
Yeah,
then
get it all.
utilize that during the thing as sort of
Mm-hmm.
an exercise to uncover what is known and unknown.
Yeah. How amazing.
I
Oh, the
know.
infinite
Sounds good.
possibilities. This has been
Yeah,
so fun for the month of
totally.
December and just kind of a nice pace after we,
Hmm.
did the work of the
After the
Kabbalion.
trauma of the
The
Kabbalion.
I mean, I really did get a lot from the Kabbalion. I'm going to go back to it. Now I will stop referencing it, but it is just kind of the emblem for like a book that we
Yes.
might not want to do too soon.
No, no, too soon.
Too
Too
soon.
much, too soon.
So, for everyone else, once again, Path of Light starting next week by Robert Perry. This is just
Yes.
kind of going to help us understand the A Course in Miracles material. And so, if you're
Hmm.
curious, or if you want an introduction, and if you want to work with this material, this is a great place to start. Get the book if you want to follow along, or just listen, and we will download you as to what we read. And then after that, I think for February, we're going to be doing the Surrender Experiment by,
I
did you
love it.
say Michael Singer?
Michael Singer.
Michael Singer. And that sounds fun too. And then we'll get the
It's
rest of the
awesome.
books together. We will post them in our Facebook group and, of course, in the description. But until next time, we hope everybody has a beautiful, happy New Year. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive.
Don't.
Yeah, have a
Don't
lot of
do it.
have a lot of champagne safely, and celebrate with your family. And call in this next year. Here I just have to say this: 2023 doesn't have to be a disaster. Like a lot of people I'm talking to, they're just so like recession, doom and gloom,
Yeah.
Ukraine, Russia. Like it's all they're
Well, the next
really,
6 weeks are tough too, just when you look at it from the solar, like
yeah,
astrological perspective. It's not great for the next 6 weeks. But by June 21, 22, 23, June,
January.
January. See where I am? I'm like, by June. Yeah, things are going to be moving. So I think, like you said, it's about having that positive attitude, because you will have a self fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? You don't want
Right.
to have a self fulfilling prophecy of a bad year. You really don't want to do that.
Well, and there's also the truth that this is a liminal time. This is a
Yeah.
transitional time. And when we are in liminal spaces and times, the veil really is thinner, as they say, which
Mm-hmm.
means we can actually access these
Yes.
higher energies and we can manifest in an accelerated and an amplified way, which is why, as humans, we kind of just know, oh, it's time to make a resolution. We're
Yes.
actually honoring the nature of this energy. And so really do think about what you want to create for 2023. Get intentional, commit to a practice, come back
Mm-hmm.
to the podcast because we're going to be immersing ourselves in sacred works. And we're going to be
Yes.
pulling from those and applying them to our lives and hopefully to yours as well. This has been fun. Like
So much
2022,
fun.
like we just
Loved
started the
it.
pod. We went through some books, but it's been a really good experience and I can't wait to see what comes in 2023.
Me neither. And just blessings to all of you, to those of you that are maybe far away from family and
Mm.
friends or going to be missing some loved ones. We send you our love, and we're here with you in
Yes.
spirit, and we're sending you energy and positivity and well wishes for an amazing 2023. Just know that you have us. Okay. So
And
have a
so it is.
wonderful. Yes. And so
Bye,
it is.
everybody.
Bye.